Sure. Thanks everyone for joining. Welcome to this week's Coffee Break Technology Series. I'm Jeff Dotzler, the host of these wonderful events. We're really excited to have you join us today to talk about technology asset management. And I am joined today by Matt Carter, who some of you work with. Matt's part of our service delivery specialist team, works a lot with clients on scheduling and on making sure that our engineers are in the right place doing the right thing, and it's kind of a go-to resource for our clients, really about anything levity oriented, and has played a pretty instrumental role in some of the projects where we've helped clients with technology asset management. So we figured he was the best person to share some insights around this. So Matt, good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're a couple quick things to remind everyone, as we usually do. We have plenty of things to talk about over the next 20 or 25 minutes to fill that time, but we'd love to hear from you if you have questions. So utilize the Q&A section in the Zoom control panel to post any questions. I'll be monitoring that and pose them for Matt or answer them myself as we work through the discussion. And at the end, we'll have a couple more things, information about our next event, as well as a QR code to download the coffee gift certificate. So thanks again for joining us. All right, Matt, technology asset management, not one of our typical kind of technology concepts, not security, which we spend a lot of time talking about. Tell us more about why technology management is something that organizations should be thinking about, and what are some of the benefits that they receive?
Well, when it really boils down to it, controlling your physical assets and having an idea of where everything is and what everything at really does come down to security as well. It also comes down to providing the correct information for everyone and giving control of where everything is. Some of the key benefits that we've seen and that our clients have seen out of this is the prevention of theft, or at least the prevention of loss of equipment. That can be a huge expense in the long run. The ability to track the equipment has also helped certain clients with audits in knowing where equipment was, if and when it was retired, and getting the right equipment to the right people. When you are able to track your equipment, our clients have been able to find that if something gets damaged and someone gets assigned a spare unit and then they order a new one and then it comes back, at all times, we know, and you will know, what equipment is where. And probably the last one would be future planning, is having an idea of how old your equipment is. That'll give you a good idea of when it is a good time to replace, who's at the same level. The technology we use to help these, to track these, can also break up by who has what equipment, who has particular types of equipment. So you can break it down to, say, audio visual, computers, telephones, anything like that. So you can break down these reports in multiple different ways so that you can figure out where all of your assets are.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Having a good control over, good awareness of what you have and who has what assigned to them makes a lot of sense. What does the process look like? Really from start to planning to execution, and what's all involved?
Sure. Well, there's three main stages for it. The most important one is, of course, the pre-work, and that's where the decisions are made in how you want to have this project approached. So things that you would want to think about is what level of equipment you want to have in there. Do you want to go all the way down to everyone's mouse, or do you want to set a financial level, an age level? But you want to decide, what do you want to tag? And then in the process of doing that, you're going to have to make some decisions about what type of tags you want. They come in all different types of colors and materials and everything like that to be single-use tags, and what information you want on them. You can make these pretty customizable. They have tags that are chemical resistant, outdoor resistant, so they really can go on just about anything. Once we get all those decisions made, including who is going to be on these projects both internally and externally, then what we do is we get some tags on order, and then we would schedule a deployment. Now, depending on a variety of things, that can look a lot of different ways. But that really will boil down to just making sure those tags get put on everything and that everything gets logged. And then the fun part, of course, is the maintenance. The reason for having asset tagging isn't a one and done project where you just set it up and forget about it. It's having the right people going in, making sure that everything's staying up to date, and having a plan and a time frame for that so that you know where to get the information that you just spent a lot of time gathering.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. How long does something like this typically take? Obviously, there's a lot of variables involved, but what
Well, yes, there are tons of variables involved. This is very much a scale project. As I said before, you'll have to just, decisions will have to be made about what level of equipment wants to be tagged. Other variables include the number of users that you have, where they're located. So if and where their assets are. So if everything is in one office, those deployments can go fairly quick. You get a set of tags on order. We can work with you, of course, in getting you set up with a asset management software, because that's another thing that we have to decide on level. There are places that like to do this all in Excel, and that's all the more power to them, but that takes a lot of maintenance. There are some different softwares that we've used, which help expedite that and give you a few extra bonuses, including having apps that you can scan devices right on your phone and everything so that you can log in. Um, and then another big factor is just going to be, can we get it all lined up? So deployments are usually fairly quick though. Each device usually takes, less than 5 minutes to register. But of course, we can tag a whole bunch of information for that device as well. So if you want to track everything down from hard drive size and all of that good information, that'll take a little bit longer to get it all programmed in, but each device goes in really quickly. So turnaround time on these can be pretty quick.
who should all typically be involved? Obviously, the more the devices, the more the locations, that's going to include more people. But who do you recommend within an organization is typically involved?
Within the organization, I would normally recommend whoever would be your local IT contact. So the person who's going to be kind of responsible for the technology anyway. I recommend one of their higher ups, if it's not the same person who's already at the top, be able to access the system and get involved with that. If you have an on-site IT team, a lot of the softwares we use can have a variety of levels of access. So you could have a C-level access, an admin level access, and essentially an IT technician level access as well, which will give them the ability to do different things. But anybody who's going to be tagging things, of course, needs to be able to get into the system and make those additions. And then anybody who will be pulling reports and wanting to look at the information. And then, of course, anyone who's just managing it. That may all boil down to being one person. It may boil down to being a team of people. And of course, if we're involved as well, I recommend us having the ability to log in and assist with that as well. That's one of the things that we do for clients is when we handle those, say a spare device that goes out, part of our standard operating procedure is to make sure that it gets logged in the tagging system as well so that we know where everything is at. So that would be an external setup. And in rare cases, I get involved so that I can help with on the management side as well.
I would assume that communication is a necessary step with the team, not only the team doing the tagging and the discovery, but also the employees. What are some best practices around communication out to the employee base?
I've found generally when I communicate with the clients that go to their employees, now I don't normally direct to the employees because my email is one that most people will ignore unless they've worked with me before. Um, but first of all, being upfront about why this is being done. If it's because there's been loss in the past, or if it's just because you want to prevent loss in the future. Uh, Generally, if someone sees this type of project rolling down, they wonder, why now, right? So giving them whatever comfort level you have and sharing the why is definitely going to be important. The other communication that needs to be shared with them is the when. So when are we going to do this? And what their involvement is going to be. So for most of the end users, their involvement is just going to be present, is they just have to be um, there at some point, especially if it's laptops, and we have a lot of remote workers right now, so that we can get things tagged and that you can get them logged and registered. But as far as ongoing maintenance or anything like that, there's not going to be a thing that they need to worry about when that comes into play. So ideally, some of our clients, it's been in the past year, it's been a crazy year. Um, we've had the remote workers come in and essentially, I don't want to say do a drive-through, but that's pretty much what it boiled down to. Is we scheduled time, they come in, 5 minutes, we're able to log their equipment, of course, keep everything clean and safe, and then they can take their devices and go back out on the road.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the craziness of what this last year has been. And I think we've seen and heard and been involved in a lot of conversations with clients about two things. One is when everybody had to go work from home, we didn't have a good grasp on what technology everybody had and what they would need. And now that everyone is at home, we bought a bunch of stuff to make sure people could do their job, but we don't have any control around what was ordered and what needs to come back or what will come back.
Yeah, that is very much what I saw in the operations end too. The first few weeks where everything was in lockdown, it was a crazy turnaround time of equipment being ordered, equipment being delivered, set up for different employees. Um, and now we're getting to that point where employees are either coming back in, or some companies are, having that decision to stay more remote. But it's still, now it's a matter of catching our breath and putting our head around, where did all of this equipment end up? And some of it's computers, but I mean, it's monitors, it's phones, it's docks, it's really, they're one person, even if they have one laptop, could end up having a couple $1,000s worth of equipment, if not more, pretty easily. And then what do we do, say, if they leave, right? Right now, if we're not tracking, if we're not quite sure what everyone has, if a remote employee leaves, you want to make sure that you get everything back. Well, with this type of system in place, you're able to do that.
Yes. When we talk about timing, we were kind of joking when we were doing some pre-planning that the the best time to have done technology asset management probably would have been pre-COVID. The next best time is right now and tomorrow. And I think a lot of organizations are starting to really make plans to get people to come back to work, come back into the office. And what are some things that you would recommend they think about as they're starting to bring people back in? Is it a good time to roll this project out?
Well, as you said, the best time would have been yesterday, and then the worst time is, of course, tomorrow. So the second best time would be today. Yeah, from all the interaction that I've had with clients who both have tagging or asset tracking systems in place versus the ones who don't, uh, whenever there is a lot of turnaround, whenever there's, and not just turnaround in employees or turnover in employees, but whenever there's just a lot of changes happening, technology is one of those things that usually gets lost in the shuffle. And this is such an easy way and an easy way to maintain where everything is at. With a lot of the clients we work with, they have particular auditing that they have to go through that involves technology. And with all of the changes that have been happening with people coming back in and people leaving, that's usually a place where some people get dinged, is knowing exactly where all their technology is. And is it up to date? And is everything exactly where you hope it is? So yeah, it is certainly still a good time to do it. The investment, both time-wise and financially, on the grand scheme of things, is going to be pretty small. There's different scales that come into play there, but usually if you're talking about 1 to 2 lost devices a year, you're well more than paid for the system. And then that's just going to be an ongoing thing where you're just going to keep saving that money.
Funny you mentioned the word money, because the question was just asked, and this is one that I was going to ask you as well. So good timing. And as a reminder, if you have other questions, feel free to drop them into the Q&A section here as we wrap up. What are the costs involved? What are the things that need to be considered as a cost component if someone's going to roll this out?
Well, the way that these usually run is that of course, there's always going to be an initial expense. Cost of stickers, cost of someone, whether it's us or your own staff or someone, to go out and tag and log and register everything. And then the other ongoing cost to think about is how you want to maintain this. Usually I find it's that if you're willing to pay a little bit more, you make things a little bit easier on yourself. So we've worked with a variety of different asset tagging softwares in the past, and all the way down to folks who are tracking stuff through their Excel spreadsheet. The ones who do that seem to spend a lot more time in the spreadsheet than the ones who are able to do work on the apps. But of course, then you have a subscription cost. So, as I said, there's going to be a lot of differences. And if you have any questions about it, this is something we'd be more than happy to work with you on, and work with your account managers on, so that we can help get you this information. But really, the long-term cost is going to be how much money do you save? And I think that's the big thing that's going to come into play. So this can be an impact across a company wide, really.
Yeah, so some of those early decisions that get made drive some of the cost components, like you said, the application, the stickers, the quality of the stickers, the durability of the stickers, the technology that's built into the stickers, many different components, but all stuff that we've had some experience with and can help organizations walk through. As we wrap up, any interesting stories, from projects you've been involved in, devices being identified and uncovered in interesting places, or anybody using devices for interesting purposes, warming up sandwiches or things like that just kind of struck you as interesting?
Well, I don't think we've had any warmed up sandwiches, although some of those older laptops are probably kicking out a lot of heat at this point. No, I think the most interesting one we had is there was one of our clients had a long-term employee, one of those that's has been there before the building was even put up, right? And they were sometimes remote. They had changed kind of positions within the company a few times, and we went through a tracking program. It was a bigger company, so they had more than 200 employees, possibly more than 3. And with this particular employee, by the time when we got to them, I think we found in their office space at work, they had the laptop they were working on. They had an old laptop that they had never turned in because they like to keep it for the just in case. And then they asked about the laptops they had at home. And yes, that was plural. And they ended up having 2 more laptops at home that were from when they were working in different departments. And when they switched, they were given a new laptop and they never turned in their old equipment. So this one employee, and this was not with malice or anything like that. This one employee ended up with like 4 or 5 computers, and some of the information was in different places. So that led to a whole nother conversation. And now they're just down to 1. And that's where they should be, because the information on all of those devices was theoretically not secure, because no one knew about them and no one knew where it was. But all these devices were joined to their domain. All of these devices theoretically had access to a bunch of information. It's like, all right, let's clean this up. And that was the winner at that particular client, but they were not the only one with multiple devices in their possession. So that's fun.
Yeah, great. Well, I was hoping you'd have like somebody using 2 old laptops to make a panini or something. Not so much. That's all right. That's probably good. Well, again, thanks, Matt, for joining us. I don't see that we have any additional questions that have come in, but good information. That I think a good a good thing for people to consider. We're hopefully out of the craziness of pandemic. Business is starting to get back to normal, hopefully for everyone. I think they're suggesting or saying that the economy is really heading in the right direction, and this summer could really get back to really close to where we were pre-pandemic. So hopefully that's all good. People can take a deep breath and start to talk about what projects are on the horizon, and we think that this one might be one worth taking a look at. For those of you that would like the coffee gift card for joining us, this is the way we're doing it now. So grab your phone and scan that QR code. Just with your, it should just work with your photo app. Just open it, hover over that code, and a little either a pop-up should happen or a little shade should fall down from the top to click to get to claim that. Or you can type in the form.typeform.com with the rest of that stuff there. I'll leave this here for a minute. Actually, I'll come back to it. If you would like to take the next step, as always, elevityit.com/assessment is a great place to fill out a little bit of information and gives us the cue to get back in touch with you. Of course, you can always talk to your account manager, your SDS, your VCIO. You can call me. Any of us would be happy to talk to you about that. Again, just wanted to say thank you for joining us. I will get back to the coffee card QR code here and leave it until we're done. So Matt, thanks again. Appreciate all the information and your experience. I'm sure some clients will be reaching out and asking for your assistance to do this again for them, or hopefully not again for them, but to do it for them. You'll do it again. And thanks everyone for joining. Have a great Friday, great weekend, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jeff. Have a good weekend, everyone.